That is exactly the same as what they Huh?
All right, thank you, Brian.
Who is that lady?
All right, so we're sorry that we are a few minutes late, but we had to do committees tonight as well, so they ran over a little bit. I don't think we have any sort of proclamations or anything tonight,
I know it just
so
sounds too easy, but I don't think so, sir.
we'll take it. So I will call this July 12, 2021 meeting of the Homewood City Council to order, and we will start with an invocation by our own Barry Smith, followed by the pledge. If everyone will please stand.
Y'all bow your heads. Gracious and loving God, thank you for those who are gathered here today. Thank you for your abundant blessings, and thank you for the opportunity to be involved in the useful work of the city and for the honor of bearing this responsibility. Give us ears to listen and wisdom to decide, and strengthen us as we make those decisions. Even when we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to listen and be respectful of those who appear before us. It is in your most precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone, please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Salter, if you will please call a roll.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Here.
Counselor Gear?
Here.
Counselor Allamon?
Here.
Counselor Wolverton?
Here.
Counselor Sims?
Here.
Counselor Jones?
Here.
Counselor Smith?
Here.
Counselor Nelms?
Here.
Counselor Andress?
Here.
Counselor Harden?
Here.
And President Wyatt.
Here.
You got everybody here? You got a quorum?
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from our regular council meeting of June 28, 2021. I would entertain a motion and a second to dispense with the reading and approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Smith, second by Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 11 to 0. Next, we have board vacancies. I know we have a couple of HEC positions that will be closing on the 26th. And Ms. Salter, I believe we have one other development with a...
Yes, sir. And we do have a at-large and a Ward 3 HEC that'll close on the 26th. So Ward 3, if y'all want to try to get some people to apply. I think we've had one applicant, but I'm not sure it's the at-large or that Ward 3 right now so far, but we've had one applicant so far. But I did want to report to you that at the last council meeting, there was an appointment made for the Ward 2 Parks and Recreation Board, and the candidate that was appointed at that meeting semi-correspondence that he was extremely appreciative for the opportunity to serve, but must decline the appointment at this time. But we wanted to make sure that I reiterated that would love to serve in any capacity in the future for Homewood, and I did let him know that we posted the board vacancies on the website, and we thanked him for his willingness to want to serve and to continue to look at that website for future.
Thank you very much. So that was the Ward 2 Park Board.
And that's Paul Simmons II, I'm sorry.
No problem. Mr. Allen?
Yes, I am grateful for Mr. Simmons for applying, and disappointed that he will not be able to serve. There have also been some questions raised about our involvement, Andrew and I, in a business as a unique structure. I want to make clear that early on in our tenure, I actually looked into the unique structure of the business and wanted to make sure we understood how it intersected with our council responsibilities. I had previously asked for an informal opinion from the Ethics Commission on a different set of circumstances to make sure that we could carry out our duties. We were informed that we could, meaning that there are no ethics violations. And furthermore, we looked into this particular instance, and this also holds true. I also want to make clear, just in case there are any questions, Mr. Simmons did not withdraw because there are any potential ethics violations, because none exist. Still, I am happy to say that we had a lot of qualified candidates apply to that position, and thus we would like to nominate Danielle Warren to fill this slot. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion for Danielle Warren.
Yes, Warren.
Second. And a second. All in favor? Yes, sir.
Don't we have to rescind the previous recommendation?
Yeah, I think you have to have a motion.
You have to.
Even
have
though
a motion.
even though he declined the appointment?
Well, there's still a resolution that appoints.
Okay. So I'm sorry. That's my bad. Do we have a motion to reconsider?
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the appointment.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Now we're on a motion to reconsider the appointment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is 11-0. Now I assume you have the,
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Danielle Warren to the Park Board for Ward 2.
and a motion from Mr. Allen, a second from Mr. Wolverton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that is 11-0 as well. Congratulations to Ms. Warren. All right.
I will let her know.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salter. All right, so that gets board vacancies handled.
Wait, can I ask one quick question? It was brought to my attention that the Mental Health Board, one of our representatives on that board has stepped down, leaving a spot open. Donna
Okay.
Burgess let me know that. I don't think those are ward-specific.
No, I don't think.
I think they're just general.
'Cause I don't even think
It's
there are
not even,
5
it's not
on it.
really our board, it's Jefferson County.
I believe they're all at
We just
large.
we have representatives on the board, Donna Burgess and another lady whose name I can't remember, who served on it for a long time. But I actually have somebody who's interested in serving on it, and I do know that somebody did step down, so do we need to open that position
Sure.
up?
Why don't we open that position for 2 weeks till the 26th, and we'll close it at 4:30 on the 26th.
Okay. And it was Burgess that stood down?
No. Gosh, what was her name?
I'll send you the list.
She was in Ward 1, I can't remember.
I
her
can't
name.
remember.
I'll send you the list, you can tell me.
Okay, I've got an email, I'll find it and I'll send it to you,
Okay.
but yes.
All
We'll
right.
post that tomorrow.
So we'll,
Thank you.
we'll post that opening. Any other board vacancies out there? All right. So with that, we'll move on to the additions to tonight's agenda. First is an addition to the consent agenda. 10:06:21, request for consideration to permit ground level deck to extend 6 feet into the right-of-way to provide a level surface for existing outdoor seating area at 1830 29th Avenue South. That item was dropped from Public Works, so that will go to the consent agenda tonight. Then these will be additions to the old business agenda. 09:06:21, request to set a public hearing to consider variance to the sign ordinance at 2611 18th Place South, Robertson Banking, brought to us by Cale Smith of our BEZ department and Sain and Associates. Next item that will be added is 08:06:21, request to consider annexation into the city of Homewood from unincorporated Jefferson County for 1621 Lakewood Road, brought to us by Linda Ling Geis and Judy Ling White, and Melody Salter and Robert Burgett. And I believe that is it for the additions to the agenda tonight. So with that, I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of the amended agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Nelms, second by Ms. Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is 11-0. All right, which brings us to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Harden, second by Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is also 11-0. All right, which brings us to the old business agenda, and we're going to take one item out of order tonight. It's going to be 08:06:21, which is a request to consider annexation into the city of Homewood from unincorporated Jefferson County for 1621 Lakewood Road, brought to us by Linda Ling Geis and Judy Ling White, who I believe are here tonight. And we will start with a report from Planning and Development.
Yes, we heard this tonight in Planning and Development, and it passed out of committee 5-0. The motion was made by Councilor Nelms, seconded by Councilor Sims.
All right, thank you. And just a clarification, because I know it came up at the committee, there are 2 different ways these happen. This is the easy one because of how this property is situated, so it doesn't require a public hearing, but it is nevertheless an ordinance. First, are there any questions or comments from the council? And if not, I would entertain a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
So moved. Oh, second.
Second.
Motion from
One
Mr.
or the
Harden and second from Ms. Smith. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Salter.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Gear?
Yes.
Counselor Allamon?
Yes.
Counselor Wolverton?
Yes.
Counselor Sims?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Nelms?
Yes.
Counselor Andrus?
Yes.
Counselor Harden?
Yes.
And President Wyatt.
Yes. All right, Mr. Kendrick, if you would give us a first reading.
Yes, it's an ordinance assenting to the annexation of certain property or territory to the corporate limits of the city of Homewood and to extend the corporate limits of the city of Homewood. Whereas all of the owners of certain property or territory herein described did sign and file a written petition with the city clerk requesting that the described property be annexed into the corporate limits of the city, and whereas the petition filed with the city clerk did include a legal description of the property together with a map of said property showing its relationship to the corporate limits of the city of Homewood. Whereas the property described in the petition referred to above has been warranted by all the owners of the property as being contiguous to the corporate limits of the city and located in Jefferson County and does not lie within the corporate limits of any other municipality as shown by the map attached to the petition. Whereas the city council has determined and found that the matters set forth in the petition referred to above are true, and that is in the public interest that said property be annexed to the city of Homewood. Whereas said petitioners did request that in their petition that the city of Homewood adopt an ordinance assenting to the annexation of, and that the corporate limits of the city be extended and rearranged so as to embrace and include the property described here. And now therefore be it ordained by the city council as follows, that the council assents to the annexation of the property to the city of Homewood. Section 2, that pursuant to the provisions of 114220 of the Code of Alabama, the following described property located at 1621 Lakewood Road, parcel ID 2900252-001-04, described in Exhibit A, is hereby annexed to the corporate limits of the city, and the property be made a part of the city upon the date of the publication of this ordinance. 3, that the above described property is not within the corporate limits of or police jurisdiction of any other municipality, and that the new corporate limits does not lie at a point more than 1/2 the distance between the old corporate limits of the city and the corporate limits of any other city. Section 4, that the city is hereby agreed to comply with the provisions of Act 604 of the 1976 regular session pertaining to the assumption and payment of any expired district dues. Section 5, that the city clerk shall file a certified copy of the ordinance in the office of the judge of probate. Section 6, that a copy of the ordinance be forwarded to the tax assessor for Jefferson County. And Section 7, that there is excluded from the territory annexed pursuant to this ordinance any portion of the property described above which may be found to be the property of any other person or which may be found to lie in an area that is more than 1/2 the distance between the old corporate limits of the city of Homewood and the new corporate limits and within the overlapping police jurisdiction of any other city. Section 8, that a copy of this ordinance shall be published as provided by law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kendrick. Any questions or comments from council? If not, I would entertain a motion and a second for approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Nelms, second by Ms. Andrus, and another roll call vote, please, Ms. Salter.
Yes, Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Gear?
Yes.
Counselor Allamon?
Yes.
Counselor Wolverton?
Yes.
Counselor Sims?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Nelms?
Yes.
Counselor Andrus?
Yes.
Counselor Harden?
Yes.
And President Wyatt.
Yes. All right, so that's 11-0, and that will be ordinance 2810. All right, so that, we'll go back now to the beginning of the old business agenda for the next item, 110621, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a front yard fence variance at 112 Hollywood Boulevard, brought to us by Christopher Allison, the homeowner, and Wyatt Pugh of our BZ department. And we will start this with a report from Special Issues. Ms. Smith.
Yes, we heard from the Allisons in our meeting earlier, and we moved to send this out without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight. Ms. Andrus made that motion, Mr. Allamon seconded it. The vote was 5-0 to send that out without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, so with that, I will open the public hearing and ask the Allisons and/or Mr. Pugh to come forward and I know you just did this not too long ago, but if you will, just because we do have a few other people, just sort of tell us what you're requesting.
I'm Beth Allison. This is my husband, Chris, and we live at 112 Hollywood Boulevard, and we are requesting a variance for our front yard fence.
For the safety of our children. And due to the layout of our property, the slope of our property, and the fact that the backyard is not accessible through the house except through the basement. And
We are hoping to be able to keep that fence for the safety of our kids on Hollywood Boulevard, which is a major access, not just really close to 280 and going from Mountain Brook to Homewood. You guys know it gets really busy right there. And like he said, it's the only way for our children to go outside and play. And
Okay. And there may be some questions for you in just a second, but let me just make sure. Is there anyone else here tonight that wishes to speak for or against this item? All right. Anyone have any questions for the Allisons?
I would just, because y'all were in the committee before, and I would just like to say, I completely do sympathize with y'all. I understand that y'all did exactly what you thought you were supposed to do. You didn't know. I think the fence guy probably did know. I think most fence guys know that there's at least he may not have known about a front yard fence ordinance preventing that, but he probably did realize that he was supposed to have a permit. Most fence guys do know that. Most municipalities do have fence ordinances. And I will also say that, unfortunately, this was called into us by, another resident, because I think people see things that they know aren't supposed to happen, and they think, well, I can't do that, so why should they be able to? Somebody called it in. I think if just based on everything that I'm hearing y'all say, and I did see a picture of y'all's lot, and you're correct, it is a very strange layout. I think I have a real problem here because I'm a pretty big rule follower, and I like for people to do things the right way. I think if y'all had come in advance and asked for a variance, I probably would have voted on it based on what I saw of y'all's lot and knowing what y'all have to deal with. I think knowing that didn't happen and the process didn't go the correct way, y'all probably won't get a vote from me tonight, but that's not because I don't sympathize with y'all or think that y'all are bad people. I don't. I think y'all did exactly what you thought you were supposed to do. I think probably the fence guy should have told you that there was a permit that was involved. But we've had several things happen like this recently where people come after the fact and say, we're so sorry, we didn't realize that's what we were supposed to do. And at some point, it's hard to keep approving things that people have done the wrong way. So I apologize for that, but I just wanted y'all to know that I do see the need for what y'all are asking for. I really do.
Can I?
Sure.
Would you folks be open to proffering the idea that when your oldest child goes to school that you would remove that fence?
like kindergarten?
Kindergarten.
no, we would.
That would be in 2 weeks, yeah.
Well, our
No,
oldest
your
child-
youngest, I'm sorry, your
oh,
youngest.
okay, I was like, our oldest
Your-
one's about to start.
Your youngest child goes to school so that at that point, you're not so worried about kids running out in the street.
Sure, I would like it to be extended to where they're probably 6 years, 7 years old, but, this is gonna be
I
a
understand. I
major-
mean,
excuse me, sorry.
maybe it's first grade or something. I mean, just some point in time where you're in compliance.
Sure, we're open to that.
Yes.
This is gonna be a major undertaking. Like I said, this was not cheaply built,
No,
and,
that's clear.
it's quite heavy, and I'm not
It's
sure
gonna
what
take a
we're
while.
going to do with all of it when we take it down, so, but yes, we're
Yes.
clearly open to that.
I have a question. I'm just looking at different timelines here too in regards to this property. And staff researched and identified in the minutes that there was a prior fence variance request on October 23rd, 2017 for this property. What was the date, and that was dropped. What was the date when you purchased the property?
We
We
purchased
were
the
there.
property on September 11th, I believe, so,
Of 2017?
yeah. We never put in a request we didn't know anything about it. No, we had an approval to finish, we pulled permits and everything to finish the upstairs of our house at the same dates, but I don't know.
I didn't.
So that was my, go
Sorry, I
ahead.
was
Because, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so just let's make sure we're Y'all have never requested a fence
We have
variance.
never requested,
Right,
we had to finish, the whole upstairs of our house was studs.
right.
So we
We
came in
requested
and got a
to-
permit and went
Yeah,
through
the
a lot of
permit.
ordeal with that as to far as how to finish the house, but
Right.
no, the fence wasn't even considered until the next year. I mean, our son was 1 year old when we moved in, so.
So I think that Scott Cook has indicated that a previous owner requested a fence variance for this same property.
Yeah, I remember that fence variance.
Yeah.
It was not them.
It was, yeah,
It
it
was
was
not
not, it was not them. It was a
That's my
previous
question.
owner that requested it and then they dropped it.
Yes. We discussed that in a committee meeting. I don't think Scott realized that it was a different.
Correct.
owner.
So
He
it-
just think that somebody previously had asked.
So we have discussed a fence variance for a fence like this for this property, but not these owners.
Well,
But it
and
was dropped.
When was Vince?
and that was gonna be my follow-up
that was
question.
over.
When was the fence built?
2018, that was a series of, the guy did it as a side job and was supposed to finish it within 2
Around
months, but
October.
it ended up dragging out. I think the very last section was installed in either late 2018 or early time.
I think it was supposed to be,
December.
he told us it was
20.
supposed to be finished in October of 2018, but it would drag out to like the beginning of the next year.
And
I would have to look back.
And,
at
and
it.
it was just reported, it was just reported to the
Yes.
city recently.
and the landscaping, when was it planted?
The
That was
landscape?
before we
That-
moved in.
That was
Before you
before
moved in.
even the previous owners.
Okay.
I mean, those cypress trees are 35 feet tall probably.
Yeah, that was the guy who initially did the house, the
So
very first
The
owner.
postal
Okay.
worker always told us, he said, man, this guy sure did the previous guy too before us. He's like, he just loved planting bushes, so I assume it was him.
Well, and what the part I'm trying to reconcile to you is, so, Wyatt, I think you referenced earlier that those hedges technically are in violation of the fence ordinance. And there was a request, but it was dropped, but the hedges weren't dealt with at that time. So I'm trying to figure out how that's been addressed over time. And are we talking, in addressing this fence variance, is it also dealing with the hedges as well?
So if we have to take down our fence, that includes the actual fence and the hedges?
That's
We're
my,
asking.
I'm
Okay.
trying to seek clarification on that, yes.
'Cause that might make.
That would be the technical interpretation, yes. Yes. The fence ordinance does provide that a hedge that grows such that it becomes a fence is the same as a front yard fence.
We have had hedges come before us previously. I think it was, and I'm just offering this for those newer to council, because I don't think one's come up since y'all got on, but we have had previous instances where hedges have come up and legally they are considered fences and not been allowed, but where people have asked for variances for them. So the hedge that's there is in violation, just like the fence is. So
And Mr. Pugh, we had a complaint from a Homewood resident about this, is that right?
That's correct.
That's how this came to us?
That is correct.
Because somebody complained about a front yard fence on this
Somebody
property?
complained, that's correct.
Okay.
Can we put that in the minutes?
We didn't know that.
Yeah, who was it?
Chris Lane.
all right, so does anyone else have any questions? Yes, Ms. Nell?
Back to the hedges and the landscaping.
Yeah.
This was well beyond you said the second owner. The very first owner, and so do we know about what year that is? I mean, are the hedges,
That the hedges were put in?
yeah, are they grandfathered in?
It was well
No, I
after
think it
the
was like
ordinance was put in place.
2012 maybe?
It was well before they were, yeah. So just to answer your question, the hedges aren't grandfathered in because they were put in after the ordinance was in place. They were put in well before the Allisons owned the property. They bought the property with the hedges in place. That was not them that put those there.
I think it wasn't the two previous owners, and that person had lived there for quite some.
Sure.
I can look back at the records, the ownership records, but I mean, that's what I was told, that he put those in. I don't see how this, I don't know, I don't remember driving down Hollywood Boulevard a lot before, because we
Yeah.
lived in Pelham, so I can't, and I
All,
probably.
all, they've been there a
Okay.
long
Oh,
time.
really?
All I know is that it was after '89 and before y'all bought the house.
Right,
Wh-
before
where-
2017.
Where it happened in
Right.
between, I have no idea. Any other questions?
I just want to say, this situation is so sticky, and I hate it, and I hate that we are here, because the situation that we dealt with before, it was in my mind, I'm trying to make all of this cohese, and in my mind, the situation that was over in Ward 4 was off the road at the end of a cul-de-sac. I did not think it warranted a fence. I did not think it was a hardship. But I think it sets a terrible precedent, and I do think that what you have is a hardship. And just again, this is total personal preference, and it doesn't have anything to do with ordinances. But I don't have a problem with the hedges, so I'm trying to make all of this make sense. I love the suggestion of bringing the fence down when your youngest goes to school at 5. In my mind, I think 5 years old. Look, I have 2 small boys, or I had 2 small boys, they're not anymore. But we live on a corner lot, busy street. Our backyard's deep. You know, we didn't play in the backyard, we played in the front yard. I mean, my kids are deaf, and so like I had to, it was a hardship. But I hate that we are in this position, because I hate what happened a few weeks ago, which it was just a few weeks ago. And that situation did not warrant, in my mind, a hardship. And I think that yours does. And so I'm trying to marry all this together, and I wish that some attorney would step in right now and help me bring this together. But I really, I'm married to an attorney, so I need to think like one. But I think that, I don't want to see the hedges go. I think they look nice, but
Yeah.
I don't want to see the hedges go,
They block the
They do.
view of the power lines somewhat.
Mr. Jones?
I don't think I've ever heard a proffer like what you're talking about. I mean, I don't know how you can say that a kindergartner is gonna run out, but then when they become 6, they're all of a sudden gonna sit in the foyer like this.
We're trying to work with
That
them.
doesn't make any sense to me, but what I'm trying to get to is just mainly on procedure, is that obviously the previous homeowner came before us for a fence variance. Hold on.
Wait, he did not. He never did. He approached the engineering department about getting a variance, and they told him it would most likely be denied. But I know
Okay,
that's.
but,
He came to the city.
He came to the city in good faith.
Right.
And so obviously, somebody looked at it, and the hedges were there, correct? Want to make sure I got my story straight. The hedges were there, and so we then recommended, okay, just go ahead and drop it, no, because there was no fence that was going up. My view, and then the fence went up in 2018. So my view is, we're dealing with the fence, in my opinion, because the city had an opportunity to address what that was. But that's just my view. I don't think the hedges should come up, but I do think that we should not allow the fence, and I don't understand proffers where children get to be a certain age. That just doesn't make sense to me. But that's just.
Well,
my
I'm trying
view
to
on
come
it.
up with something
I know, when you look at it,
and maybe we could
It
just
does-
say 4 years or
I
something.
think we're trying to.
well,
yeah.
okay.
Hang on.
that's
Ms.
all I have.
Geary, I know you had a question.
Yes, Mr. Pugh. So I was trying to find somewhere in the municipal codes, or maybe it's an ordinance now, where it actually says that a hedge is the same as a fence. Can you tell me where that is? It's in the fence or
It is in the
specific?
fence ordinance, and I don't know what section and number, I'd have to look it up, but I can
Okay.
send that to you if you need me to.
Okay. Well, I'm just, okay, it's a specific ordinance, okay.
All the ordinances are on our website, and they're searchable by topic.
Well, and I'm looking at, I did look at that, and it was not so easy to find, but thank you, Ms. Smith.
Yeah,
And,
I assure you, I can send you that.
oh, well, that's okay, if it's there and if it specifies, that's what I wanted to know mainly. I don't think I have any other questions, thank you.
All right. Okay, so first of all, with regard to the questions about what happened previously, it appears that someone came to the city, asked for it, it was put on the agenda, a public hearing was noticed. In between the time it was noticed and the time the public hearing happened, the applicant dropped it. I think it's probably safe to say, because they were told by the BEZ department that it was unlikely to get approved, and so it was dropped. The public hearing was opened and closed, and the item was dropped. But it had to be opened and closed because it had already been noticed. So that appears to be what has happened. I've still got to close this public hearing. Does anyone else have any questions for the Allisons? Okay. Yes, Mr. Lane, it's still open if you would like to speak, but you got to come up here.
Chris Lane, 1763 Mayfair. I've been accused of turning these people in, number one, and all I did was bring the attention of what was complained about the house above that y'all passed 2 weeks ago about the fence.
I think it's more than 2 weeks ago, but
okay, so whatever it is.
But
okay?
we know what you're talking about. I just don't want anyone to get confused.
My issue that I was trying to make a point was that there was a fence on Hollywood. It's been there for 3 years, and we've had nobody say a word about it, even our council people who live there. They watched it being built.
We did not watch it being built. I didn't see it be built.
It took, how long did it take it to be built?
Mr. Lane, I can assure you, I never one time saw anybody put a
You didn't
fence
see it
in
on
the
Hollywood
ground.
Boulevard?
I absolutely did not.
Okay, never mind. That's okay. I'll retract that. Okay, but going back to what I'm trying to say is, not only, it was about not the fence, it's about the hedge. And because if I'm not mistaken, I was told years ago that the hedge is a fence and it breaks the ordinance.
It is.
Not only is it Hollywood, it's on Roxbury. We've got new hedges that were built there 5 years ago. Nobody has said a word about those hedges. And so where are we going to go pick and choose from house to house? Are we going to really, there's got to be common sense here. They did a beautiful job on their house. The hedge was there. I know who put it there. I mean, Pizzatolas put it there. I know who put it there when they did it. And it didn't look bad. Now, it's grown up. Now, where is it on the ordinance? If you have a fence, what can you put behind that fence? Can you put a kid's?
I think it's safe to say that
I'm
one
just
fence. Well, I'm going to answer it.
Huh?
I'm going to answer it for you.
Okay, but the fence
Chris,
is already, okay, go ahead.
you asked a question, I'm
Yes,
going to answer it.
Go ahead.
One fence does not justify another fence.
Okay. But when does the city itself, who saw the fence there, when what you were talking about, when that hedge was put there, and they also talk about it 5 years ago, it wasn't 3 years ago, because it had to be previous. Why didn't our city council at that point take the hedge out then, and why subsidize these, put these people in that condition? I'm just asking a simple question.
I know
That's
you
the
are.
common sense I'm asking.
Point of order.
Wait, hang on.
Okay.
This is irrelevant.
Let's
It's irrelevant?
Let's make sure we're talking about apples to apples here,
Okay.
Chris. The city council does not order that. The city council deals with issues that are brought to the city council's attention. That item was not brought to our attention because it was dropped by the applicant. No, don't point to Walter. It was dropped because the applicant dropped it before it ever got to us.
Okay, hold on.
So that
Okay,
item was not before us.
I'm dropping the complaint. If I'm the complainant, I'm dropping
You are not
it.
the applicant. You are
Well,
not the applicant.
Okay.
The applicant has to drop it because the applicant has made the application.
I got
The
you.
complaint was made, the city has to deal with any complaint that is made. That's
And
where
where
we
was-
are. If you want to discuss the merits of having a fence or not having a fence there, I'm
No.
happy for us to discuss it. If
I'm-
not, then we need to move on to
Okay,
the relevant topics.
We'll move on. But Walter, Councilman Jones, made a great point is when it was brought up and y'all knew, even though it was dropped, it was illegal, right?
Okay, so.
Hold on. Was it illegal to have it there or not?
Chris, that item was not before us. You are saying something that's not
That's not
correct.
the point.
Now,
We're
does
picking-
no, don't interrupt me.
Okay.
The item was not before us.
Mhm.
The city council does not go around enforcing the ordinances. There are other departments of the city that do that. When an item comes before us, we make a decision. I understand your point, same point that Mr. Jones made, and I'm sure the council will consider that as to this issue tonight. But I don't want to get up here and talk about what the city did or did not do about an issue that wasn't before us, which is the hedge.
But we're gonna pick and choose hedges.
We're not picking and choosing hedges.
Okay, we're not.
If you would like to go and make complaints about all the other hedges that are on Lancaster,
Well,
They will come
then those
before
people
us.
will have to come before us.
3 weeks ago, or a month ago, whenever the one was, that Jennifer was talking about up on the hill, okay? A resident's never complained.
No, that one was actually one of our city staff members.
That's the point I'm making. So in other words, a city staff member can go down the road, house to house, pick theirs next, mine next, or whoever's next. The city staffer is allowed to do that. And then it gets brought up and it's voted on, right? Yes or no? And that would just happen?
If the person who has the hedges then comes in front of us,
You're skipping a step,
No,
Chris.
no,
Yes, you
that's
are.
the reason we're
You
here.
are skipping a step.
Okay, what's the step?
The enforcement is that the city tells them what to do. They then have the opportunity to ask us for a variance. That's all the city council can do, is approve or not approve the variance. That's it.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But the point is, who did the complaint? Y'all recognize me as the complainer here. So that's why I'm standing up here. Who complained with the person a month ago? up
I would
there?
have to go back and ask
Well, we
them
already
that
know.
question.
Mr. Cook turned it in. We've already justified. There is
Yeah.
no
This
resident.
is not relevant to the
I
topic,
know.
to the item on the agenda, 080621. So
That's,
you have
Mr.
something-
Gwaltney, I can understand, but you get the point. You gotta go to A to B before you get to D and F.
Chris-
Their fence variance, not hear you wax poetic about how we enforce things.
All I'm saying is, they've done a great job with it. God, you can't see it.
Oh,
I'm saying,
okay.
use of common.
Oh, he is in favor of it. I'm
There is
sorry.
common sense here.
Are you
And
in?
by the way, hold on, let me time out.
Let me ask you a question.
Wait,
Yes or
wait,
no?
wait,
Are
wait,
you in
wait.
favor of that fence and those hedges? Are you in
I'm
favor?
in favor for it.
Okay, thank you.
So you-
No,
Number
we're
one, I
gonna
didn't
stop.
call it in.
We're
Hold
gonna
on,
we're gonna
Can I
stop.
ask one more question? Let me say one more thing.
You can-
Mr. Harden, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, gave the owner of that property a chance to remove the fence after he sells the house. Why don't I give them the same respect? No, he sure did.
What?
He just gave them the opportunity
To sell it in when he gets the first grade. That's a lot different. She might get pregnant again.
All right. Yeah,
I'm serious. She's a
Mr.
young
Lane,
lady.
Mr. Lane, if you've got another comment to make about whether you think this fence should be here or
I
not
think
be
the
here.
fence ought to be here.
Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate your comments as always. Thank you.
Y'all have a
All
good
right. Anyone else here to speak for or against this item? Okay. Then I'm going to
Can I-
close the public hearing.
I would like to apologize to Allison. You've gotten caught between a political fight between someone who fights every single thing the city does. And
All right.
That's, you are the victims of that.
So,
As irrelevant as everything you
all
just said
right.
up here.
Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone else on council have any comments about this fence or these fences?
I have a comment.
Yeah, Mr. Alma.
I mean, I appreciate Counselor Jones saying that we have to support our ordinances. At the same time, we exist because variances are allowed. And there's different reasons as to, right? Because if there wasn't a process that existed, then we would just follow the rule book and just say no to.
Well,
if
the
they fall
problem
out of
is
order.
they didn't follow the process because they didn't get a variance before they put the fence in. I think that's the point. They didn't get a permit and they didn't ask
No,
for the variance before
I
they
understand
put
that,
it
but they're here now, and so we just got to deal with, and so we can vote as to
Sure.
however we would like to, so. I just think that it is a difficult situation. I understand your need for a fence based on your young children, and I live in a cul-de-sac. I don't have that issue, so I sympathize for those folks who live on busy roads. And I do think that we should figure out a way to be much more, not so blanket, not have a blanket approach to our fences. Also, and I've told Mr. Jones this, that I don't think this should be city council's business to approve or deny fences, right? I think it's probably above our pay grade. And there's probably a better process that we could set forth that would make this simpler, and that's it.
All right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
that's it.
I apologize. Ms. Gear, I believe you had your hand up.
Well, I'd just like to say one more thing.
Sure.
That now we understand how this brought to the table, I think it does make a difference that this was somehow brought to the city to make a point, and I don't think that that is a fair, that these neighbors should be caught in the middle of that. Thank you.
Wait, I'm sorry. What, was
The-
brought
the-
to make a
this-
point?
This case was brought to the city apparently through a complaint from a citizen that, from what I understood, either he didn't know he was making a complaint or he was trying to make some other point, and now he has changed his mind about it. So in my opinion, this whole, and from what I'm understanding, this would have never come before us or never have gone to our inspection group had that not happened. And I just think that's important in this discussion.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, I've got a couple. I, like many up here, am uncomfortable with this whole thing for multiple reasons. One, what Ms. Gear just said, although I take it from an opposite standpoint of someone sort of trying to make an example of the two of you, and I hate that. But secondly, because I don't disagree with either Mr. Jones or Mr. Almond that, you know, the way the rules work is there's a variance process, and that's there for a reason, and it's there for when we need it. At the same time, I do continue to have concerns about how we are dealing with front yard fences because we keep chipping away at it. And if we believe that front yard fences are okay, that's fine. I don't have any issue with that. But we as a city have said through an ordinance that we don't like front yard fences, or we don't want front yard fences. Up until a couple months ago, the only front yard fences that were approved dealt with children with special needs, which implicated the ADA. We chipped away at that by approving it. That house was way, way, way off the road, and so there was sort of a distinction there. I guess where I get uncomfortable in terms of approving these is an equity issue. If we, and I'll use the last one as an example to start with. The last one, it's way off the road and it's hilly. Well, my yard is definitely steeper than that yard. And there is no, I mean, there is much, much steeper and much more dangerous. And I live on Ridge Road, which people go at least as fast as they do on Hollywood Boulevard. I don't doubt for a second that y'all did the right thing or that it doesn't make sense for you to have a front yard fence. I guess what I'm concerned about is if it's okay for you to have one, who is it not okay to have one on Hollywood? And if it's okay for everyone on Hollywood to have one, then is it okay for everyone on Oxmoor to have one? And if it's okay for everyone on Oxmoor to have one, then is it okay for everyone on Roseland to have one? Is it okay for everyone on Ridge to have one? Is it everyone, Raleigh? Because the justification's the same. It's that we have kids in almost every house, and we have traffic that is dangerous to those kids. And so perhaps this is just the lawyer in me, but I get concerned about the precedent we're setting each time we open this exception up farther and farther. It's easy to look at it in isolation and say, you have a very good reason, because you do. You absolutely do. And unfortunately, you got the person who built the fence didn't do what he was supposed to, so that you didn't handle it on the front end, and I hate that for you. And quite frankly, depending on what happens, you may have some legal action against him if you choose to do that. But that's my concern, is the precedent that we are setting, that we we are going to, you know, the idea of we have young children on a busy road, that's a perfectly good reason to have a front yard fence, and maybe as a city, if we think that that's a good reason, then we should have front yard fences. But if our opinion is that we shouldn't have front yard fences, it's hard to look at it in isolation in my mind without something that is truly distinguishing, such as I've got a special needs kid who can't understand traffic, or that, you know, where the ADA is implicated. And so that's my concern, and that's what I struggle with this. And so regardless of what happens, I'm very sympathetic to what the position you're in, and really hate that you were in it. But at the same time, I don't know how the city approves yours and tells other people no. And approves yours, and 2 houses down, someone shows up tomorrow and says, I live on Hollywood and I want a front yard fence. How do we tell that person no? How does that become equitable? And so anyway, that's my concern. That's what I'm struggling with. That's what I'll figure out here in the next few minutes. Yeah, so with that, yeah, Mr. Jones.
And just, I just want to say, we make a lot of votes that are just not popular, but we were elected to be equitable and to follow our ordinances, and if there's a special case that warrants that, then we should vote for it. But otherwise, I mean, sometimes our job is to be I mean, I don't know, just.
So, and let me also just throw this out there. And Mr. Kendrick, you tell me if I'm wrong about this. This could be, we're essentially looking at 2 variances, or 2 fences here. So we could deny the variance together and say there's no front yard fence, or one fence or the other could be approved. And that speaks to what Mr. Jones brought up, and that's why I bring it up.
Leave everything else.
And my concern about this too is in the equity conversation too, or maybe it's separate, is if both are rules on the books, how are we choosing which one to enforce?
Sure.
And especially as you look down with the hedges along the street. So again, I go back to, you know, it's everybody looks at the intent of the ordinance and makes, you know, weighs the pros and cons and makes their own best decision. So.
Yes, and I should, thank you, Mr. Sims, because I should point this out. I don't want my comment to be misconstrued. The equity argument exists not only between fences, but whichever fence, if you allow one fence, again, you're still saying you got to tell the next person no. Right, for all the hedges, or, you know, whatever. And we've got some hedges in Homewood that predate this ordinance, and we've got probably, I'm sure we have some that don't. But I think that, you know, that's where we are with it. So everyone's got to deal with that in one way or another. Do you have one more? Sure, come on.
Just for the people that weren't here before, we're not like just choosing to hang out in our front yard. I mean, we do love our front yard and we love seeing our neighbors and everything, but we don't have access to our backyard on our main level. So our living room main level, we do not have access to go back at all. If we want to get out of our house on the main level, where our, you know, living room, kitchen, and all that area is, we have to go out the front door or the patio door, which is right out to the front, which goes out to the front yard.
Or through the foundation.
Or we have to go down into our basement, and through the foundation area.
Sure.
So I just wanted to explain that if anyone was wondering why we're choosing our front yard, is because we do not have access to the back without going outside and around or down into the
And
basement.
even if we did, the backyard is not usable for a play area compared to the front yard. So, I mean, we have one little section that's smaller than this area right here. And there's a retaining wall and a shed and a bunch of other structures. So
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Just wanna make sure.
Do we need to wait until Mr. Wolverton comes back?
I was just about to ask, does anyone know where he went? Wolverton?
Is there Alabama Power right away on that backside of the property?
Yes,
Yes.
backside and the whole side
The
of
whole
the property.
side, To the yeah. right.
So they don't take care of that, it's completely overgrown. It's
But the fence is
unfortunate,
inside, obviously.
Well, you don't want them to come back there and spray, I can tell you that.
All right. Are you about to make a comment, Mr.
I
Gwaltney?
was just gonna ask a question. I
Okay.
don't- In all of the discussion, I lost track of what the status of the proffer was.
If there is, so we cannot impose a proffer on you. Basically, a proffer is just something that you offer to do that we would take into consideration with the vote. So if, for example, you were going to make a proffer of, we'll remove the fence when our youngest child hits kindergarten, or if it's whatever, it's up to you as to whether you want to make a proffer or what that proffer would be. But if there is a proffer you would like us to consider, you should let us know now before we vote. So that's, and if you need some time to talk about it, we're happy to provide you time to talk about that. We've got plenty of other stuff to do tonight, so we can sort of come back to this, or even if you want to wait and have us carry it over and come back on the 26th, we can do that.
It's up to you. I mean, I'm getting a little confused because we didn't even know bushes were on the table here initially, and then that's a whole
So
new
we were just
topic,
thinking,
so
we
I don't
were
know. If
trying to
y'all-
wrap
are
our head around just getting rid of the fence.
Uh,
And now
are
we're
we-
having to wrap our head around getting rid of the fence and the bushes.
Yeah, are we still,
So-
are we voting on the bushes and the
Yeah.
fence? Are we voting on the fence? Are we voting, so I
Yeah,
don't-
so it could be anything, any of the above.
So we're not sure.
So both are in violation, so it could be a vote on getting rid of everything, or you need a variance for either one.
Okay.
So the variance, the council could vote to not grant a variance as to either one, or could vote to grant a variance as to one or the other.
But if we can go back and prove that those bushes were in place prior to 1989, I don't know that they were. I'm
Sure,
just saying.
I'm fairly certain they weren't, but sure, if you had that information, that would be
Okay.
something relevant to consider. And I'm happy to, like I said, carry, the public hearing is closed, so there won't be another public hearing, but I'm happy to carry this over till the 26th to give you all more time to consider that if you would like.
No, I think we're gonna have to do that, because if it comes down to removing the fence and the bushes, then we're,
We'll have to think about it.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, why don't
That's
we
it.
do that? Why don't we
So-
carry this over tonight?
But we can come back with, may we keep the fence
Sure.
until,
If you have additional, yeah, you leave you don't have to take the fence down now. We'll
Oh,
wait
right,
until
right.
you get a decision from us before you have to do anything.
I'm saying we can come back with. I don't wanna say-
Additional information.
Okay, I don't want to say
or
an
a
offer, because
proffer.
that didn't sound right, okay.
Mhm.
What do
Thank
we
you.
need to do for the proffer? Do we need to
You just
have
need to
just
show
something
up.
in write? Okay, that's it,
Okay.
we don't, okay.
Just
I
need to
didn't know if
show
we
up,
needed
and then,
something legal.
and then what we would do is we'd let the city attorney put that into,
If you have a proffer that you want to make, please send it to either the council.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you, we
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yeah, just-
We'll take the time if we can.
and if you've got any questions in the meantime, as to
Okay.
how to do that, you feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to.
Okay, all right.
To make
I
sure
think-
that we're handling the logistics correctly.
Okay,
Thank you, thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Anything else?
Well, I was giving it to you for you, but, but yeah, you can give it to Sean too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will carry that item over.
All right, we'll see you on the 26th.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you very
thank y'all.
much. All right. That brings us to 090621, request to set a public hearing to consider the variance or variances to the sign ordinance at 2611 18th Place South, brought to us by Robertson Banking and Cale Smith. We are going to set that public hearing for our next meeting on July 26th. All right, and that brings us to the end of our old business agenda. Okay, and to our committee referral agenda. So I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of the committee referral agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Almond, second by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Wilkinson also is.
Yeah, so that's 10-0.
Sure. Just a request on the, the two signs that are coming before us. Mr. Smith, if you can, like, be really clear when you come to committee next week, like, what do we allow and what are they requesting? So what is the delta with,
Sure.
with that? So I can be clear, because I've been a little bit lost tonight on the Robertson banking thing as to what we allow and what, so if you can put that together by next week, that would help me out a lot.
Sure, that's right. And I think where we went wrong from our department upstairs is that we reviewed the engineering plans, which include work in the right-of-way, which there happened to be a sign in the right-of-way. So typically, I wouldn't bring signs to you guys. Wyatt would bring signs, because these permits, signs isn't in the zoning ordinance, it's a standalone ordinance. So you guys hear that. Wyatt presents signs. I don't really care what signs look like and how many of them there are from our department, but since it was being built in the right-of-way, it sort of threw it in our department. So, does that make sense?
Yep.
So from now on, whenever there's a sign in the right-of-way, we'll know we'll get it, we'll wrap our heads around the whole project and figure out what sign.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and also for, I guess for your guys' information, they haven't, the Robertson banking folks haven't even received the sign package from the architect yet, right? So they've got to do that within the next week to be able to come back next week.
From that aspect, sorry. From that aspect, do we think the 26th is enough time?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, they said that when I went back and talked to him, and he said that they just didn't realize, he said he would talk to the sign guys tomorrow.
Right.
They'll
Yeah.
have it by next time.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, so that brings us to the other new business agenda, 010721, request to set a public hearing for consideration of variance to the sign ordinance at Gatsby Court and North Shadesview Terrace.
Hey,
brought to us-
Alex, I'm sorry. Did we do the committee referral agenda?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did approve that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. Because it was 10-0 instead of 11-0. All right, so 010721
No
will
one
be
even
set for a
misses
public hearing for July 26th at 6 p.m. Next item, 020721, request to set a public hearing to permit 2 internally illuminated wall signs at 1944 28th Avenue South, brought to us by Carl Hall, Trav Ad Signs, and Wyatt Pugh. That item will also be set for a public hearing at our next meeting on July 26, 2021 at 6 p.m. 030721, request for consideration for approval of vouchers for the period of June 29, 2021 through July 12, 2021, brought to us by Robert Burgett and Melody Salter. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. I yield to Mr. Gwaltney, who worked on those today.
Yes, and I'd like to say thank you for all the offers of help from Mrs. Salter, Mr. Burgett,
You're welcome.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Harden. I appreciate it. Everybody obviously thought that I needed lots of help. But
No, I did text, Mr., even he did tell me that he knew these, so I did text Mr. Harden Friday, letting him know he can access, and he likes my text. I got it right. He didn't send, I didn't say LOL, April Fool's Day.
everybody was very worried about me, which I'm not sure what to think about that, but we'll let it go. Yeah, I appreciate that. But so I did receive a couple of paper cuts, flipping through the novel. I did briefly break out the dinosaur Band-Aid. I had my wallet, but I took it off because I felt a little embarrassed. I reviewed the vouchers and had a few questions. Mr. Burgett sat down with me for a few minutes and answered those. The rest of the questions that I wrote down were just out of novelty for myself to know. We spend money on lots of interesting things. But with all that, I would make a motion for approval. Can I make the motion? Yeah. I would make a motion for approval of the vouchers from through July 12th.
Jones, you said, that's
Yeah.
Jones, second.
Dr. Jones, second.
You're going to give me a confidence issue.
Total faith in it.
All right, so that's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Are you voting, Mr.
Are you back?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And believe it or not, that is the first ordinance we passed. Resolution that we passed tonight.
I just asked Mr. Kendrick to research.
Yeah, so that's 2192,
It's been a
and it
long
was
meeting
11-0 vote. All right, and that is somehow the end of the agenda. we'll start with Mr. Gwaltney tonight. Any announcements from you?
I don't have any announcements. I'm not setting public safety. I didn't call it P&D for once. I would like to say, though, Mr. Harden, thanks for offering to help. I do appreciate the time. I did have a cast of quite a few people back there cheering me on and eating all of the snacks. So if you need any snacks in the back, my daughters ate them. They're all gone. And then asked where the rest of the snacks were hidden. So, but all that said, it's good to be back after the week off, and good to see all of your smiling faces. That's it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gear?
No announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alamon?
I just want to briefly mention that this week is my wife's birthday, so I'll be celebrating her, and I will not be here next week because we'll be at the beach for a week. That's her birthday present. So thank you, everyone.
Good for you. We can just move the meeting down there and I'll participate down there. Mr. Wolverton?
Don't have anything special tonight. I will actually also be on the way back into town next Monday evening. I know that there's one item that does need to get dealt with, so I'm just gonna see if anybody would volunteer to take Public Works for next week, since I won't be here.
I'll do it.
Mr. Harden, thank you very much.
So do I need to set Public Works?
Well,
5 o'clock.
Walter, I didn't do it.
So 5.
How long do you need?
5:30. Is there nothing else between?
Yeah. So,
Okay. All right. 5. I'll set it for 5:30.
So Public Works for 5:30 next week. Yeah, I think that should be plenty of time.
All right. Mr. Sims?
Thank you, President Wyatt. So I just wanted to update a couple things. The one being the on-demand transit survey. Thanks so much to Melody and Brian for helping push that out through Everbridge and social media and the internet. So getting a lot of responses on that. Also, Councilor Harden, I believe, covered a TV or
Tried to
news
get him
spot
on the
that.
phone. I tried to get him on the phone. No answer. And there were a couple of questions I could not answer, but
You did great.
I didn't see the spot, so I missed what happened.
So thank you for that. So just please continue to spread the word to encourage residents to participate in that survey. It is on the website and also on the city's Facebook page a little bit further down from about a week ago as well. But you can find it right on the homepage of the city's website to link to that. Also, Birmingham Waterworks let us know that they're doing a project this week kicking off on the 14th in Ward 3 that'll impact segments along Palmetto, Woodland, and Salter. And I'm sure it looks like Councilor Harden and Councilor Andrus are happy to send them our way. So just a heads up on that. And there's a map and other information available. So if you're interested in that, we're more than happy to send that to you as far as the project scope. Both Councilor Jones and Mayor McCluskey and I have that. Also share that via social media. Reminder, there is the HEC appointment in Ward 3. So any Ward 3 residents, please feel free to submit your resume and intent to Ms. Salter. That would be great. And finally, Green Springs is a little bit congested right now, a little bit messy, but pardon our progress. I mean, there's a lot of great things going on. I know it's an inconvenience for folks for traffic, or maybe possibly having to change up the route a little bit, or maybe a little bit less walkable at this point. But know that the intent long term is obviously is going to be a much better product than what you're seeing right now. So just be patient. I'm really excited about how quickly that project's progressing. If you have any questions, let us know. Walter and I in particular are talking to folks regularly about it, as it is primarily in Ward 3. But just really excited about what Public Works and Berkeley and the team's able to accomplish overseeing that project with Don. It's really exciting to see. And finally, there is a Unity celebration in Homewood Park this Saturday from 11 to 1. That's 1 year of just promotion of anti-racist efforts in the city. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. But I had a friend invite me to that, so just wanted to mention that as well. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I just want to first thank you, I think, for getting everyone up here. We're finally all up here. I'm tired of being scattered all over the place, so I'm glad we're back up here. And then next committee meeting, I think, will be next door, so that'll be good. Finance at 5, so read over your audit, come with questions, and I hope everyone had a great holiday and continues to enjoy the summer. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much. Ms. Smith?
I will set special issues for 5:45, and I have 3 signed variances and that cornhole. So I'm gonna just say 30 minutes just in case. And then the Homewood Historic Preservation Commission is meeting tomorrow night. We are meeting by Zoom at 7 o'clock, and I believe the Zoom link is already on the website and has been posted. So yeah,
I think it's in this morning.
yeah. So if anybody wants to join in on that, that is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And that is it for me.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nelms?
Yes, I have a few things. I've been thinking a lot over the past couple of weeks about our community and how easy it is for our constituents to come at us with complaints. How easy it is to post something on Facebook, sidebar conversations, private meetings, emails. I just want to ask everybody to stop and just breathe for a second. Insert the names of your relatives, your siblings, people you genuinely care about in all of those situations. It'll make a difference in how we react to each other. Just stop and think about that our votes and actions impact our community. We live here. It's our home. It's where our kids have to socialize and interact with other people and grow up and become, responsible citizens. So I just wanted to say that, just specifically to our constituents, because when one of us makes a mistake, all eyes are on us. And it's so quickly to, jump on one of us because we're in the public eye, but we do want to be here and we do want to serve. And not to ramble and to kind of sum that up, I have a prayer that I'll end all those comments with. And basically it says, Benedict was quite precise about it all. Time was to be spent in prayer, in sacred reading, in work, and in community participation. In other words, it was to be spent on listening to the word, on study, on making life better for others, and on community building, not breaking down. It was public as well as private. It was private as well as public. It was balanced. No one thing consumed the monastetic's life. No one thing exaggerated out of all proportion to other dimensions of life. No one thing absorbed the human spirit to the exclusion of every other. Life was made up of many facets, and only together do they form a whole. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Nelms. Ms. Andrus?
That's a quote, Counselor Harden. How do I follow that?
Yeah.
That's impressive. Thank you. That's nice. Thank you. I will start by setting P&D for 6:15. Forward to that. And Cale Smith said that he will have something for us on the tree ordinance, so that's all I have on my agenda, though, so that shouldn't take too long. I do want to thank Berkeley and Public Works, y'all. God, Ward 5 is such a mess. I mean, we are such a mess. And just I would tell Councilor Jones and Sims, I've just really had a great relationship with the Waterworks, and before that with Spire. So just be in constant contact with those folks and send out, it is not been fun. It has been a long 3 years. But I do think it helps to know we're down to like 21 houses that need to be hooked up, and then they're going to turn everything on, and then 30 days go by, and then we pave. So we have 30 days to make sure everything settles and there are no leaks and everything. But I would just
bet on that 30 days.
That's what they tell me, I know. But I would just recommend just to be in contact with them and be in contact with their constituents, because it really has made a difference. But back to Public Works, we've had so many things going on but Public Works has been so responsive. Chris Thacker is the best. I mean, I bugged that guy on vacation. I mean, the best. He really is. I texted him all week long, and finally Berkeley told me on Friday, Chris has been on vacation all week. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Chris. He never one time said, I mean, I texted him at 7:30 in the morning, and he'd get right back to me. So Friday night, I'm sitting at dinner with my husband and some friends, and I get a message. What time was that? At 9 o'clock in the morning? I mean, 9 o'clock at night. And Berkeley is down in the pipe on La Prado in the storm. So, right. So Public Works, 9 o'clock on a Friday night is out there, you know, with some of our stormwater issues, which we are addressing, and the mayor has made a priority, and Cale Smith has made a priority. So anyway, just thanks to Berkeley, thanks to Chris. Oh, and we had a pothole on Hampton that just appeared, and I sent it on, and by God, they were there an hour later. So, and all the sidewalk repairs are all in Ward 5. So we're sorry, but they are all in Ward 5. And so I just really want to thank Public Works. They've done an amazing job taking good care of us. And one day we will have pristine roads. And that's it.
Okay, number one, I do want to thank my co-ward mate, because without her, I'm not sure where Ward 5 would be. Number two, I want to go ahead and, I was surprised Councilor Smith didn't let everybody know about Mississippi State's national championship win. That I don't think we've had a meeting since then, though. But three, Saturday we did what was on my wife's bucket list for years, which was we went up to North Alabama to hear the Helen Keller play that they do up in Tuscumbia, and so we rushed out of the house. Last minute realized we're supposed to have stadium seats. I'm running to go get stadium seats. They're all sitting in the car waiting on me. And we go up there, and of course it's over at 10, and it's a 2-hour drive, so we get home after midnight. And we drive up into the driveway and look, and the front door is wide open. And I know that it was my wife's husband's fault. Because I certainly don't remember locking it, and certainly must have just not pulled it. And so she was like, we're calling the police. Call 911. I go, okay. So that we're not calling 911. Let me call the Homewood police. And I will tell you, you would be so proud of our city and the people that showed up. I mean, they did show up, 3 of them. One with the canine unit, and of course our poor dog is in the house. Just, you know, it does no good whatsoever. But my whole point is that, man, do we have some great guys on our police force. It's after midnight. They ought to be grumpy, and they were fabulous. I mean, just absolutely fabulous. Of course, they're pulling their guns out, looking through my house. But I really appreciate the police force, and we did get to meet them. One neighbor came out, but anyway, I am grateful for our police force.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolverton, you had something else?
Yeah, I did forget, we've thanked Berkeley privately, but I also wanted to give a shout out to Public Works, and we did finally get the connector. For those of you that don't know, there was an extremely large tree back in, I think, the beginning of May that fell, took out one whole side of the fence, and drainage into the drainage canal over there. And I know we had, it was being filed through insurance, so there were some delays between that and weather and everything else. But fence is up. I'm pretty sure it will be stained in a couple weeks like it was last time. And it looks fantastic. Everybody's excited that it's back there and able to access the park that way. And then secondly was also with the police department, but I'm blanking on what that was now.
Did you leave your front door open?
No, I know what it was. Sorry. There was there was somebody that wandered into Nexus a few weeks ago, said that they were looking for some money for some gas or something along those lines. Then needed to go to the bathroom, then proceeded to sit down at a table there. Then they politely said, sorry, we can't really help you. Long and short of it is, after class was over, 20 minutes later, somebody realized that their vehicle was gone. So they called the police department, and thankfully they were able to track their debit card, which had just been used at Lowe's to attempt to purchase $2,000-something worth of goods at Lowe's. They didn't have that money in the account, so it didn't go through. Police department responded quickly, got out there to Lowe's to look around, and actually located the vehicle in the McAllister's parking lot, and then located the woman that had allegedly stolen it and took her into custody very quickly. So this all was boom, boom, boom within 20, 30 minutes from the call. And, you know, unfortunately, she sounds like may have a history of doing things like this, but just want to thank them for responding so quickly. And obviously, I think, you know, when no damage to vehicles or anything else happens, and it's kind of wrapped up quickly like that, it's obviously best case scenario. So they were very responsive and handled things very professionally, and everybody was happy.
Thank you very much. I don't have much of anything other than to simply welcome everyone back up here and crowd my space. Got to get used to this again. I'm about to, yeah, thank you. So the reason that we are back up here is because the governor's emergency order has now expired. All of the various orders are now expired. So what that means is committees will be back in our workroom, thankfully, beginning next Monday, and we will all stay up here. That also means that because the order with the exception has now expired, Zoom participation is no longer allowed. We will, at least for the time being, be broadcasting out on Zoom, but we will, but if you want to participate, you got to do it in person. So just so everyone knows that that's what's going on. With that, sorry. Okay, so with that, we will adjourn until our next meeting on the 26th and committee meetings next week. Thanks, everybody.